Story 1. They're the type to still bring up that one time they defeated someone in high school. We are all grown up now. Story 2. Most of these comments may be true for some, but a bully can honestly be found in any profession. The biggest bully in my school is now in Africa, working in a role similar to an ecologist and loves Bernie. I could see that type on paper as someone I would definitely be friends with, basically a role where it appears from the outside that they are a good person. However, people's lives were made difficult because of him. All these responses from law enforcement officers and nurses make me think that perhaps they do not take into account what truly defines a bully. Story 3. How they treat service workers matters. If they are disrespectful to those preparing your food or assisting you, they are behaving like a bully. Story 4. They are a police officer today. I appreciate all the responses. I am clearly generalizing. Not all bullies are police officers, and not all police officers are bullies. I am also viewing this from an American perspective. While all professions have bullies, I have personally observed a disproportionate number in law enforcement. Story 5. They peaked in high school. Anyone who can honestly say that high school was the best time of their life. Story 6. They try to make themselves look like good people with an affinity for life itself on social media. They believe it portrays them positively, but all they are doing is seeking praise and attention. Story 7. They have a "be kind" quote or something similar in their bio on social media. If they claim they never witnessed any bullying in high school, it is often only bullies who say this, either because they were the main perpetrators and did not recognize it as bullying or because they did and simply did not care. Story 8. Past behavior is the best predictor of future behavior. Most individuals never change. They just get better at hiding their behavior. Story 9. A true hallmark of a person is how they treat those who can do nothing for them when they think nobody is watching. This can be observed within a family unit or in how they treat service workers and janitors with the same equality, importance, and kindness as executives. Story 10. Their explanation for their prior wrong behavior is something like, "Men are just like that. You wouldn't understand," or "I had to." "Oh no, friend, I understand clearly." Story 11. After reading many answers, it seems there are no sure signs, as many of the ideas we have are contradictory. It is a good question. The answers are nearly always interesting. Story 12. Story topping and only talking about themselves. Not everyone who does this is a bully, but every selfish person exhibits this behavior. Story 13. I work in a corporate environment, and there are individuals in their 50s who clearly exhibit bullying behavior by targeting those who are different from themselves. Story 14. A coworker wrote a letter to the editor of the newspaper opposing measures against bullying in schools. He believed that being bullied builds character. I don't need to tell you who he voted for. Story 15. Most likely, low-rated employees who make fun of their colleagues in the office and try to ruin their social work life for no apparent reason go and apologize, then repeat the cycle again. Story 16. Sales or environments where they are constantly meeting new people indicate a potential red flag if they cannot maintain long-term relationships. This suggests that they may not be genuinely nice, as their pleasant demeanor seems limited to a certain time frame. Story 17. They drive cars intended to provoke the people they wish to bully in real life but cannot. Lifted pickups and sport utility vehicles are a popular choice, though some kind individuals prefer larger trucks. Anything modified to resemble a police car, such as a black Charger with a spotlight and a ram bar, fits this description. Hummers are definitely included. My former brother-in-law, a lifelong bully, purchased one to stick it to the liberals. It was a $26,000 middle finger with 82,000 miles on it. What a fool. He mentioned this to me because he knew I drove a Prius. Goodbye. The rear window decal featuring a little boy urinating is another hint. All this passive-aggressive behavior stems from deep-seated fears, feelings of powerlessness, and inadequacy. No amount of wealth can rectify it. Story 18. I am surprised I still haven't read about this particular topic here, so here it goes. I used to know someone who would share stories about pranks and jokes he and his friends pulled at school, describing them as the fondest memories of his childhood. I constantly thought this doesn't sound fun or funny at all. It sounds cruel and traumatic for the children on the receiving end. Story 19. I am good friends with my grade school bully. He grew up and had two children with significant disabilities. This experience humbled him quickly. I know he struggles with his past and has expressed remorse and regret. He believes his children's disabilities are a form of karma, but I do not share that view. He is actually a good person now, and we talk often. I wish him nothing but the best. Story 20. A significant issue is that individuals often criticize themselves for minor mistakes. I have observed that when negatively inclined individuals strive to improve, they struggle to forgive themselves. This behavior suggests they constantly feel guilty and doubt their worthiness of forgiveness. Story 21. I don't think I've ever had a physical education teacher who wasn't a bully or a creepy individual. I remember one particular moment in my senior year when there was a freshman kid who seemed to struggle heavily with anxiety. He always had a look of terror on his face, and I felt for him when I saw him around because his expression reminded me of my own daily struggle with anxiety. Yet, my unsympathetic gym teacher saw this poor freshman and thought, you know what would be fun? Scaring a kid who is obviously having a hard time on his first day of high school. So he waited around a corner in the hallway after his class was getting out, waited for this particular kid, and then shouted boo. It seemed innocent enough if it weren't for the incredibly threatening tone and loud booming voice he used. The poor kid looked like he was going to have a heart attack or break down crying, and my gym teacher just laughed at him. It was disgusting to watch, but it hit me in that moment just how much of a bully he was and probably still is. My only regret is that I didn't have the courage to call it out at that moment. I'm sure the kid could have used an ally, but I was still living a life where the only safe way was to keep my head down. So I said nothing and just looked on in disgust. Story 22. This is interesting because I used to be a bully, and I didn't even realize it. I didn't physically harm anyone for their lunch money or anything, but I did what I was told. I believe in treating people the way I want to be treated. Normally, this is a good foundation. However, I have always enjoyed a bit of banter. If someone gives me an insult, I usually find it funny. However, not everyone shares that perspective. Not everyone can handle it, and not everyone is in the right frame of mind to take it. What I didn't consider until I was older is that people have their own struggles. A breakup, a difficult home life, a failed test, whatever it may be, or maybe they just don't appreciate it. I simply didn't think about it and was often in banter mode. I probably made some people feel quite bad. It's a bit disappointing in hindsight. Story 23. They are the President of the United States, and they belittle a leader of a country who is defending his nation from being invaded by a dictator. Story 24. One sign I have noticed is when someone tends to undermine others to make themselves look better in a group setting. It is a subtle form of bullying, such as making small comments about others. Story 25. Most of the high school bullies I know are often twice or thrice divorced alcoholics with a gambling problem. Story 26. I used to be one who bullied. I did it because I hated myself and felt rejected by others. I struggled to find a place to fit in, and I projected my mother's venomous words onto those around me. My insecurities affected them. I was between 11 and 14 when I stopped, humbled by my own experience of being bullied. I turned to God, and He healed me. Instead of hurting others, I learned to work through my own pain in a loving and healthy environment. I am now 18, and when I see someone being bullied, my heart softens for some of them, particularly those who show wounds caused by their families or the world. I have compassion for their struggles. However, I also knew a boy who was wealthy and entitled, raised in a good family. I felt so jealous of him. Everyone seemed to love him, and he never experienced heartbreak. His family adored him while I felt condemned. Story 27. In my country, they become soldiers or police officers, mostly soldiers, because my country's army is ineffective. Story 28. They are a police officer in the present. I do not like people saying all cops are bastards. I was born out of wedlock and do not like being compared to a police officer. Story 29. Pyramid scheme individuals who suddenly contact you may seem to want to apologize, but then they start promoting a random multi-level marketing opportunity. Story 30. You cannot make a mistake around them. You will often hear about it, not in a fun way, but as something they hold against you. Story 31. Conversational narcissism is the tendency to shift the focus back to oneself rather than engaging with what the other person is saying. This behavior can also be present in individuals who are not bullies. They may believe they are being empathetic when, in reality, they are just being self-centered. Story 32. Bullies operate through continuous small provocations to test where they encounter resistance. It is similar to a 3-year-old child trying to see what they can get away with. It is someone who is not initially overtly hostile but consistently takes small steps to make you slightly uncomfortable in their presence. Story 33. They put a lot of effort into their public persona and try to marry for status or perceived status. However, when you are in private and they begin to talk, they relax into a private persona that is very perceptive and judgmental of others, enjoying gossip and celebrating other people's misfortunes. Story 34. Something I've noticed about office bullies is they do not know how to react when someone does not tolerate their behavior. I have worked with a few for years, and it never ceases to surprise them when someone tells them no or challenges what they say. They also prefer not to have anything in writing because they do not want to be held accountable for how they speak to others. Story 35. I recently learned that an acquaintance of mine is a subtle kind of bully. He comes off as a gentle older person. We were having a calm group discussion about the importance of various rules in the English language, a typically unheated topic, when I disagreed with him. There was no sign of conflict, but he pulled me aside afterward and asked for a hug, as if we had experienced a deep personal conflict. I believe he was trying to discourage me from disagreeing with him in front of the group in the future. Story 36. They may make jokes at others' expense, struggle with empathy, or show defensiveness when past behavior is discussed. Story 37. Laughs a little too hard at mean jokes. Calls past bullying just messing around. Gets defensive when the topic arises. Still enjoys making others uncomfortable. Talks about weak people as if it's a personal pet peeve. Story 38. I just say it how it is. People always take offense, but I call a spade a spade. Never in my life have I met anyone who uses these phrases without being a bully. Story 39. Taking a different perspective than what most posts suggest. I was somewhat of a bully in elementary and middle school. Nothing extreme, but I often spoke negatively about certain individuals and embarrassed them. Now that I am grown, I have used those memories as motivation to become a better person. I do not want to be unkind. I want to help others. I aim to leave a positive impression on everyone I interact with. What is a sign that someone was a bully? They regret their past actions and use that regret as motivation to improve. Story 40. Even if they no longer bully outright, they remain negative and difficult to reason with, especially under pressure or when being questioned. They may not embarrass you in public or give you a humiliating prank, but they will certainly lie, manipulate, use false charm, or be unnecessarily sarcastic. Story 41. They share stories about the harmful actions they took against someone while growing up, accompanied by a small smile. Then they justify their behavior by saying it's okay because the person they hurt feels bad now and their life is worse compared to their victims. After that, they proceed to bully a child who does not fall for their manipulation because that child has learned to recognize such behavior from having a narcissistic parent. If you have to tell someone you are a good person, then generally you are not. My mother used to tell me she was a good mother. She was not. Story 42. There is no such thing as an ex-bully. Most individuals remain bullies throughout their lives. Some realize that they must hide those tendencies in normal society because it makes them appear unlikable. However, they will always carry the bully persona from their past. Story 43. They cannot stand not being in charge. These individuals often become nurses and real estate agents. Chief executive officers enjoy being praised, feeling important, having power, and being able to talk and have people listen. Story 44. They made your life difficult in middle and high school, and now that we are in our 30s, you receive a message on Facebook asking you to join their multi-level marketing group. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.